Osaze stood frozen, a sinking feeling settling in his chest. Had the priest seen through him? Had he known all along? And if so, what would happen next? Osaze sat in his living room, his mind restless. It has been weeks since he last saw Adesua, and the silence was driving him to the edge. He paced the room, his fingers twitching with frustration. He had done everything he could, visited the river, lingered around the palace, even risked catching the attention of the king's guard. Yet, there was no sign of her. His escort, sensing his troubled state, tried to distract him, but nothing worked. He couldn't confide in them. They wouldn't understand. They were bound by fear of the kingdom's tradition, unwilling to even speak of the young queen, let alone help him. Just as he was about to pour himself a drink to calm his nerves, his phone rang. The screen lit up with a name he hadn't expected. His mother. With a sign, he answered, placing the phone to his ear. Hello, Mom, he said. Osaze, his mother replied. Listen to me. Her voice was sharp and urgent. I had a dream. Something terrible happened to you. Osaze ran a hand over his face. Mother, please, not this again, Osaze said, rubbing his face. You think I am just saying things? You think it's a joke? I don't know what you are involved in, but leave it alone, pack your bags and come back home, she said. He exhaled heavily, glancing towards the window where the moon hung low over Benin City. Mom, I am fine. It's just work, nothing is happening. Lies, she snapped. I know when you're lying, Osaze. I am your mother. Whatever it is, stop. You don't belong there. For a moment, he hesitated. He had always felt disconnected from this land, from its custom and traditions. But at Desua, she has changed that. I can't yet. I can't, he finally said. Not now, mother. Not now. His mother was silent for a moment before letting out a slow breath. Hmm. Be careful, my son. And with that, he ended the call, his chest tight with emotion. Days passed, and he tried to focus on work, but his mind remained restless. Then, one evening, just as he was about to leave his hotel, a soft knock came at the door. He opened it to find a cloaked figure. A young woman, dotting nervously. Are you Osaze? She whispered. He straightened. Yes. She quickly slipped him a small folded note. From the Queen. She says you must meet her tomorrow night at her parents' house. Osaze's breath caught. Her parents? But the maiden had already turned, disappearing into the night. The next evening, under the cover of darkness, he arrived at the location. The house was small, old, tucked away in the quiet outskirts of the city. As he stepped inside, he was met with the sight of an elderly couple, their backs bent with age. They refused to meet his gaze, their heads bowed low. And then, from the shadows, she stepped forward. Adesua. She was different from the last time he saw her. No longer in her royal attire. She wore a simple wrapper, her hair covered with a scarf. But she was still breathtaking. Adesua, he said out of excitement. She managed a small smile before gesturing towards the old couple. Osaze, these are my parents, she said. Osaze turned to them, confused. But before he could speak, The old man dropped to his knees, bowing deeply. My daughter, please. The man's voice trembled. Do not bring shame upon us. Usaze's brows furrowed. What? What are you? The old woman shook her head fiercely, her eyes brimming with fear. We are not worthy to look upon you, my child. You belong to the king now. We are nothing but dust before you, the old man continued. Adesuwa's hand clenched into fist. Stand up, she pleaded. You are my parents. You should not kneel before me. But they remained where they were, trembling, refusing to lift their heads. Osaze's chest tightened. He had thought she would find comfort here, but even in her own home, she was a prisoner to tradition. Adesuwa turned to him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Let's go, she whispered. Without another word, they left the house, stepping into the quiet night. They walked for a while before stopping beneath a tree, where the moon cast a pale glow over them. Osaze turned to her. Why did you call me here? She took a deep breath and replied, Because I needed you to see what I left behind. I was taken from them when I was 15, and they have not seen me ever since. I cried every night, wondering if they miss me. But you saw it. They are too afraid to even look at me, she said. Osaze reached out, gently touching her arm. I am sorry, Adesua. She shook her head. No, I need to face it, but it hurts. A long silence stretched between them before Osaze finally asked, Why did you stop coming to the river? At his voice, her body tensed. She looked away, her breath unsteady. Because, because what we are doing is wrong, Osaze. His heart pounded. Wrong? How is it wrong? Tears welled up in her eyes. Because I am nothing but a sacrifice. I was choosing to die with the king. That's my fate. And yet, she hesitated, then whispered, I keep dreaming of you. Osaze stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. It is not wrong, Adesuwa. I have felt it since the first day I saw you. I can't stop thinking about you too. Her breathing grew uneven. But what can we do? There is no escape for us, she said. Especially for me. He cupped her face, wiping away its tears with his thumb. There is always a way, he said. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the weight of the world seemed to disappear. Slowly, he leaned in, and she didn't pull away. Their lips met, hesitant at first, then deep, desperate, filled with unspoken longing. And then, abomination! They tore apart, eyes wild in horror. A maiden stood at a distance, her face pale, her hands trembling. Abomination! Before turning and running towards the palace. No! Adesuwa gasped. No, Osaze, go now! But Adesuwa, go! She commanded, before dashing after the young maiden. Osaze stood frozen for a moment, his heart hammering. Then, realizing the danger, he turned and fled into the night. The night air was thick with silence, broken only by the horrid step of Queen Adesuwa as she chased after the frightened maiden. Ameze! She called out. Ameze, wait! Adesuwa called, her voice pleading. Ameze halted, trembling violently, her wild eyes filled with terror. My, my queen, what I saw, it's abomination, she stammered, stepping backward, as if afraid Adesuwa would harm her. Adesuwa took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. Ameze, I know what you saw, and I beg you, Please, do not tell anyone. But my queen, you are the king's chosen bride. How could you? I am not just a bride, I may say. I am a human with feelings. Adesuwa took a step closer, her voice soft. I never asked for this. I never asked for this fate. My heart beats like yours, and I long for love, just like any woman. Ameze shook her head, torn between duty and sympathy. But if the chief priest find out, if the king knows, they must never know. Adesuwa interrupted, her tone firm now. Promise me, Ameze. Swear that you will never speak of this. Tears welled up in the young maiden's eyes as she looked at her queen, seeing not just royalty, but a woman imprisoned by duty. I swear, my queen, she whispered. Adesuwa reached out for one of her wrist beads, a sacred piece given only to royal maidens. Take this, she said, placing it in Amezen's shaking hands. By this bead, you swear secrecy. Ameze clenched the bead and nodded. I swear it, my queen. But secrets are heavy burdens. Days passed, and Ameze could not find peace. The guilt ate her like a relentless spirit. She could not serve the king, knowing she carried a forbidden truth. She could not live with herself, knowing she hid something so grave. One fateful night, she wandered deep into the forest, far from the palace walls. The trees loomed over her, whispering in the wind. This is my punishment, she murmured, tears streaking down her face. With trembling hands, she tied her scarf to a low hanging tree branch. She took one last breath, whispered a prayer, and stepped into the darkness. By dawn, she was gone. A week passed before people noticed Ameze's absence. Whispers spread, and soon the king summoned the chief priest. I want her found, the king said. The priest bowed. I will summon her spirit, my king. If she is alive, she will return. But if she is gone, I shall find out why. Adesuwa, who had been standing nearby, felt a chill race down her spine. As the priest turned to leave, she ran after him. Chief priest, wait! He stopped, looking at her with knowing eyes. What troubled you, my queen? I I only wish to see the summoning. She swallowed hard. The priest studied her, then smirked. Why does this concern you so deeply, my child? Adesuwa had no answer. Return to the palace, he said firmly. Your place is beside the king, not among the affairs of the spirits. As he walked away, Adesuwa's heart pounded. If the spirit revealed the truth, she was doomed. 3 days later, the chief priest returned. Adesuwa sat by the king's right hand. Her throat dried as dust, waiting for the priest to speak. Your Majesty, the priest began, Ameze is gone. Gasps echoed through the royal court. The king frowned. And the cause? The priest exhaled deeply. It is of no importance, my king. The king narrowed his eyes. If a servant in my palace dies, I must know why. The priest met Adesuwa's gaze before answering. She took her own life. A sharp silence followed. She has been buried, and her family has been informed. Do not trouble yourself, my king. The king, now 85 years old, only nodded slowly, not questioning further. But the priest turned to Adesuwa and bowed. Your Majesty, I request to speak privately with the young queen. The queen waved his hand in dismissal, granting permission. Alone, Adesuwa dared not look at the priest. He chuckled darkly. The fly that refuses to listen follows the corpse to the grave, he said. Adesuwa's breath hitched. You are getting closer to your purpose in this palace. He warned, do not let earthly desires take you away from the path of the gods. Looking directly into her eyes, he snuffed, and then he left. Adesuwa stood frozen, knowing she was running out of time. Few months later, Anosaze had returned back to the US, but was very miserable. He had become a shadow of himself. His music career had halted. His heart ached for Adesuwa. One day, his mother visited him. I heard you have stopped producing music. What happened? Why did you stop? She asked, concerned. Osaze sighed, replying to his mother. I fell in love, Mom. I fell in love with someone the last time I went to Nigeria. Then why are you here? She asked sharply. She is bounded by tradition, mother. She is to be sacrificed. His mother shook her head in disgust as she replied, she is but a human and not an animal. But at the end of the day, go and fight for her. Do you love her enough to risk it all? Mother, do you really think I should go? He asked. Yes, my son. If she make you this unhappy, I mean, look at you. If you feel like this because of her, why not? Go back and fight for her. Then bring her here, she said. Osaze looked up, determination burning in his eyes. That night, he booked a flight back to Nigeria. Osaze arrived on the king's 98th birthday. The entire kingdom was in celebration, but his heart had only one mission. Amidst the celebration in the palace, Osaze positioned himself where Adesuwa would see him. And then, when their eyes met, her heart leaped. He gave her a signal and walked away slowly. She hesitated only a moment before seeking permission to leave the festivities. They met at the Oka River, their secret place. Without a word, they kissed, deep, longing, and desperate. But in the palace, the chief priest stood before the dying king, who exhaled his final breath. As the ancient drums of the past king thundered across the kingdom. What is that sound? Osaze asked. She listened, then whispered, the king has passed. She turned to Osaze, eyes filled with fear. I don't want to go with him. I don't want to lose you. Osaze pulled her close. Then run away with me, he said, tears rolling down her cheeks. No, no. Instead, just take it. Take what? Osaze asked. My innocence. Take it. Osaze swallowed hard. Adesuwa. But she pulled him close, pressing her lips to his, sealing their fates. Meanwhile, back in the palace, the chief priest and the guards were already looking for Queen Adesuwa. Soon, her trusted maid Effie ran looking scared, bowing to the chief priest. She told him where the young queen had gone, and with that, the chief priest understood what was going on as he yelled at the top of his voice in Benin language, Awa, meaning abomination. Then back at the Oka River, Osaze was seen on top of the queen when suddenly he got pulled away unexpectedly by the palace guards, pinning him to the ground. Adesuwa stood up, trying to cover up with her wrapper. She watched as they handled Osaze like an animal, with pain and disappointment in the eyes of the priest. He ordered the maidens to escort the queen to the chamber of the old. The chamber of the old was a place where the king kept an old lady that checks privately with the princesses to make sure none has lost their innocence. When Queen Adesuwa was dragged into her chambers, with the priest standing outside waiting for the result, soon the old lady came out holding an egg, which was a sign of purity. The chief priest nodded his head in confirmation. as Osaze hasn't started the act before they came in between them. Before leaving for the shrine, Adesuwa begged the chief priest to allow her see Osaze one more time. Let me see Osaze one last time. And he refused, as he replied, his fate is sealed. She swallowed hard. What will happen to him? She asked. The chief priest's face darkened as he replied her, not to worry about what will happen to him, but worry for what will happen to her innocent parent that she had dragged to the grave due to her selfish desires. Adesuwa gasped, and then, with tears in her eyes, she raised her head tall with pride like a noble queen. She apologized for her wrongs, then smiled, apologizing to her parents, whom she had dragged into her mess, and looking up at the moon. She praised Osaze, the man that showed her how to love, regardless of her fate, and for seeing her as a beautiful woman and not as a sacrifice. With that, she walked with the chief priest to the shrine. And as for Osaze, he was never seen or heard from again, as no one knew what had happened to him. The moral lesson here is that traditions are the foundations of people's identity, shaped by generations, upheld by sacred beliefs. Breaking deeply rooted customs can come with severe consequences. Adesuwa defied the tradition, though driven by love, led to unforeseen suffering, not just for herself, but for her innocent parents. Her actions remind us that traditions, especially those believed to have been ordained by the gods, are not to be taken lightly. I hope you love and enjoy this story. Tell me, what did you learn from this story? Should there be a part 3 about Osaze's fate and whereabouts? Drop your suggestions in the comment section below and see you soon with another beautiful story. Bye for now.